Okay. I know it's been a while. I am going to give a very brief SAFE Act update, but I'm also going to talk about exit strategies. And when I mean exit strategy, I do not mean running out of the door during a home invasion. The SAFE Act lawsuits are pretty much at the point where it's stalemate. Mr. Tresvant went to court a couple of weeks ago. We have yet to hear back from the court. Mr. Tresvant closed his Facebook fan page. I don't know why. I emailed his son. I speak to Tom King, the president of the New York State Rifle Pistol Association. He has not received a court date for the major lawsuit. There were some interesting developments. Some local sheriffs have vowed before God they will not allow their deputies to enforce it. Some local sheriffs have written friends of the court letters to the court, the judges presiding over the cases, and the NRA wrote a friend of the court letter to a judge, to one of the judges for the New York State Rifle Pistol Association suit. A friend of the court letter means you have an interest in the case. I'll give you a prime example. This morning, I had to help some kids across the street, and this fucking stupid girl was on her fucking cell phone, which is illegal here. You're not allowed to talk on your cell phone while driving unless you have a hands-free device, or unless it's an emergency. Well, many years ago, there was an idiot who was talking on the cell phone, crashed, killed a little girl. The little girl's mother said, only in America is a phone call worth more than a child's life. Now, let's assume that another mother had lost their child because the driver was talking on the phone and was distracted. That mother could write a letter to the governor as a friend of the governor, a friend of the court, and say, pass this law banning cell phones while driving because my child was killed too. So, friend of the court means this person has a case pending and I have a vested interest in that. I'm a gun owner too. I have very bad arthritis in my hands and I cannot reload a magazine after 7 shots. It takes too long. I prefer this firearm because I have one arm and I have to use my other arm, one hand only, and this firearm is very comfortable for me, and because of the SAFE Act, I can't buy that firearm anymore. That means you have a vested interest in the court. You could be in California and write a letter to the court in New York and say, I'm afraid our governor will do this too. Most of the time you have a friend of the court letter, you say, you have your lawyer write it for you. Very formal, please and thank you, letterhead, typed, signed in ink. Sometimes you quote cases. A lot of the NRA and the sheriffs are quoting cases being, Supreme Court upheld this in 2008, Supreme Court upheld this in 2010. So a couple of sheriffs and the NRA wrote letters to the court saying, side with the plaintiffs, meaning us, because this law infringes on them. There was an individual the other day who was arrested by a state trooper. He was pulled over for a traffic stop, and on the seat in front of him, he had a handgun covered with a sweater. The handgun was legally registered to him, but because he had 9 rounds in the magazine, they arrested him. He goes to court on May 23rd, I think. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, the judge will dismiss the charges. I would. I'll tell you right now if I was a judge. So, majority of the police officers have vowed not to enforce the SAFE Act, but the officers that are going to put Cuomo's dick sucking before their oath, they're going to be a problem for us. Yeah. So, that's that. And how is New York any safer? But there was a little thing. There was a court decision in New York. It's now illegal in New York for a police officer to ask you if you're carrying a gun unless he has a reason to believe you're dangerous. If you're walking around drunk and on drugs, cop can ask if you have a gun on you. If you're very, very angry, you're going to fight somebody, cop can ask if you have a gun on you. If you're sitting in front of the bank and you got the engine running and you got a ski mask on and you're checking your watch and sweating, cop can ask if you got a gun on you. But unless you are doing something overtly suspicious, a cop is not allowed to ask if you're carrying a gun anymore. He's not. Unless he has a reason to believe you're going to hurt somebody. So if I'm on the cell phone and I say, I'm going to come out and I'm going to fucking kill you, cop can ask if I have a gun at that point. Okay? Used to be in New York State, you're not required to tell a cop you're carrying a gun unless he asks or unless it's obvious he'll find it. Like if you got 5 deer carcasses in the back of the pickup truck, the cop, okay, I have a gun. I just shot 5 deer. I have a bolt-action Remington 700 30-06 behind my seat. Okay, if it's obvious he's gonna find it, yeah. But now he's not allowed to ask anymore unless you're suspicious. So we're anxiously waiting for this, anxiously waiting for that. Also, another update. A lot of the people that supported the SAFE Act are on their way to prison. Bribery, embezzlement, extortion, money under the table, kickbacks, handshake here, back rub there. A lot of that shady political bullshit that they do, they're being called out on it. And there are, every couple of days, a new lawmaker's getting arrested here. This guy in New York City wanted to buy a spot on the mayoral election for a friend of his or some shit like that. The Speaker of the New York State Assembly, Sheldon Silver, who's an absolute motherfucker, Cuomo dick sucker, he is under investigation for some kind of sex scandal thing. So a lot of people that voted for the SAFE Act, we don't have to worry about voting them out because they're going to be in prison pretty soon. Or resign from office in a deal to avoid trial. So there are going to be a lot of open spots. Hopefully we can put some pro-gun people there. Maybe, maybe not. We got to see. Cuomo, he's done. He is absolutely done. He is just done. He does not give a fuck about political corruption. Mostly because the corrupt politicians support him. He couldn't get gun control passed by all these corrupt politicians. And it's kind of funny. They want to make New York safer by banning guns, yet they're committing felonies. They legally cannot own a gun. So who the fuck are you to talk to me? Cuomo looks the other way, Cuomo this, Cuomo that. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised tomorrow if I found out Cuomo did some shit and he got arrested himself. I'm hoping Cuomo either resigns or refuses to run for re-election because there are a lot of idiots that will re-elect him. You don't believe me? What happened nationally last November? There's that, I'm losing a lot of respect for Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro is making a television commercial where he talks about how wonderful New York is for businesses. New York is the worst state in the union for business. Highest taxes, most business unfriendly. This is the worst. You are better off going to California. That is how fucked up New York business environment is. So our tax dollars are being wasted on a propaganda film to tell brain dead people how wonderful New York is for business. Now, my mother's going to retire next year. My parents are thinking about relocating to Florida. And I told them that even if I had a $100,000 a year job and I had $1 million house and I drove a Mercedes Benz, I would quit my job, sell my house, sell my car, and move in with them. Yes. within the next 2 years probably. So I will be about 33. Now, 33-year-old man living in his parents' guest house and possibly being unemployed looking for menial jobs. That's pathetic. Well, I would rather sleep in my parents' bed at 33 years old than put up with this shit. Because this shit up here is more disturbing than sleeping in my parents' bed. That's how disturbing this shit is. Yeah, I know, I'm creeping you out right now. Your fucking skin is crawling. Well, it's the truth. I'd rather live with my parents until they die and be unemployed for the rest of my life than deal with this shit any fucking longer. And even if we win the SAFE Act, Cuomo could still do something. So you gotta win the SAFE Act, but then you gotta get Cuomo out one way or another. One thing. I do a lot of reading. An Act of Bravery, Otis W. McDonald and the Second Amendment, by Sue Bowron and Frederick Jones. Very thin book. I read it in one day. This is about Douglas Otis McDonald, the individual who sued in Chicago in 2010. McDonald v. Chicago. This is his story. Very last page of the book, I want to read something to you. Yeah, I should have fucking did this before. Page 99 of this book. The Supreme Court told Chicago, you must allow citizens to purchase handguns and use them for home defense. Okay. Less than a week after the verdict was handed down by the Supreme Court, Chicago wrote the new law. Okay. No felony conviction, that's nationwide anyway. No more than one drunk driving conviction. So if you got 2 drunk driving convictions in Chicago, no gun. I agree with that because if you're stupid enough to drive drunk, you're stupid enough to shoot drunk. So don't fucking drink and drive, assholes. Okay, buy 1 handgun a month, not carried outside of the home, not carried in your backyard, not on your porch, not in your garage. Your living quarters only. $100 permit fee for every firearm you own. $15 registration fee for every firearm you own. Renewed every 3 years. And if you already own firearms, you have 90 days to catch up on that. So if you lived in Chicago and you got 5 firearms, you got 90 days to come up with $500 for the permit fees and $75 registration fees. Okay, so that's Chicago. Supreme Court says, let them buy a handgun. Chicago says, no felony, no domestic violence, 1 handgun a month, in your home, not in your garage, not on your porch, not in your backyard. $100 registration fee per gun, $15 registration fee per gun. So permit fee, registration fee per gun. Every 3 years, pay that. So if you got 5 handguns, every 3 years you owe $500. Everything's a compromise. The federal court could say to Cuomo, it's illegal for you to tell the state police to put us under surveillance buying too much ammo. Now, when you buy ammo under the SAFE Act, buy it from a dealer. The dealer has to tell the state police who you are, what your job is, how much ammo you have, what calibers you have. I buy 500 rounds of 45. I buy 2,000 rounds of 38 Special. I buy 5,000 rounds of 22 long rifle. The state police gets the report. If the state police thinks I have too much and they interpret how much too much is, put me under surveillance. Now, let's assume that federal court says, okay, placing citizens under surveillance is unconstitutional. Fine. 500% tax per box of ammo from now on. Registering so-called assault rifles is unconstitutional. Fine. No more than one rifle a month. You own no more than 5 rifles. So the federal court will put the new guidelines in and abolish this and the other thing, and the state will say, okay, let's meet the minimum standard. Okay? Also, in Chicago, no shooting ranges. You gotta go out of town to practice. You gotta go out of town to take your safety class too, like in DC. So, in addition to getting rid of Cuomo, you gotta get rid of, in addition to getting rid of the SAFE Act, you gotta get rid of Cuomo too. Because Cuomo will continue to do shit. He'll continue to say, okay, no more than 1 handgun a year. No more than 5 handguns per, they'll still try to do something. And you gotta control them. So we gotta get Cuomo out one way or another. Also, the taxes. I'm sick of paying all these taxes up here. Florida has no income tax, no pension tax, no Social Security tax. And for the amount of money that my family spends renting a 2-bedroom apartment up here, we get like a 3-bedroom house down in Florida. So that's an exit strategy. Now, I have a lot of friends here, a lot of family here, and it would kill me to see my family once a year to come up and visit for Christmas. But, blacks had to flee the South because Democrats were bothering them. Gun owners gotta flee the North because Democrats are bothering them. If I can't control the politicians, then I have to get the fuck out. It would be during the summer, so it wouldn't affect my job, but I'd probably be like, okay, end of one summer, be like, okay, I'm not coming back in September, I'm leaving the state. Find a new guy to replace me. And one of the little girls in my neighborhood, she asked me, are you going to be our crossing guard next year? And I said, almost certainly. I said, we are going to be brought back next year for September. And they almost never rotate us, so yeah, I'd probably be back next year. I saved her life one time. We were standing on the corner on her way. She walks to school. She comes down the hill from her apartment building, crosses the street by me, and walks to school. A few blocks away from me. I had her on the corner one day, and row of parked cars were standing on the sidewalk, and the light turns red, and some fucking asshole is speeding. He doesn't want to fucking stop, and I hear the engine hum, and I threw up my arm. She bumped into my arm, and I knocked her back. I put her back, and the car raced by. And I actually asked her, if I wasn't there, would you have stopped? And she couldn't fucking answer me because I was stuttering. She didn't grasp the situation like I did. Had she not been paying explicit attention, because she was coming forward, she would have gotten killed. So, as menial as my job seems, I actually saved the child's life. There's one bus that comes around the corner. It stops on the opposite end of the corner. Bus comes down and makes a right-hand turn. Very narrow street. Very large majority of the time, the bus jumps the curb while it's turning. Large trucks jump the curb while they turn. High school girls stand there. I say, that bus is going to jump the curb. Get back. She got back. The bus jumped the curb where her foot would have been. She would have lost her foot that day. But, every time she goes for a pedicure, the pedicurist better thank me for having 2 feet to work on. Because it would have been 1 foot in a stump. And I have to flee my fucking home like a fucking criminal. I'd probably get a job down in Florida that's making a difference somehow, one way or another, but people depend on me, people like me, people trust me. And the fucking government, just like a fucking piece of shit. I've been labeled a fucking extremist. Cuomo is fucking brainwashing people, especially little kids, to be afraid of people like me. I saved more fucking lives in one fucking day than Cuomo ever will. Some stupid cocksucker was talking to Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin. He said, Cuomo is trying to save lives, and I commend him for that. Commending Cuomo for trying to save lives is like commending Pauly Shore for trying to make a good movie. It's like commending the Democratic Party for treating black people properly. You know? It's like commending Seth MacFarlane for trying not to offend people. Okay? Commend Adolf Hitler for religious tolerance. Same difference. It really is a fucking sin. Okay? I work on the fucking busiest street corner in the fucking city. 100 kids a day. Yeah? Buses, walking to school, this and that, baby carriages, grandmothers with baby carriages, a couple of disabled guys in the neighborhood. Okay? Busiest intersection in the street, in the city. A lot of times I gotta put my own body in front of a car. Today I was helping another girl walk across the other street this way, and as I'm helping her across, some fucking asshole was making a turn. Now here's the other. Okay? The light is red here. You walk across the street. The light is green here. You're driving, you turn. So cars turn on green, people cross on red. They both have the right of way. Some asshole, this is this morning, some asshole was making a left turn, but going too fast. I was helping the girl cross the side street. Where was I when that car came forward? I held up the stop sign. I was right next to the girl, and I held my body in front of her body. That way, in case the car came through, the car would hit me instead. The car stopped. Thank God the fuck we were able to stop in time. Another mother and kid were on the sidewalk. Stupido. They said stupido to the fucking motorist. Okay? I literally stood there with that fucking girl next to me. Stood there knowing the car could hit me. It probably wouldn't have killed me. It probably would have fucked me up a little bit. You know, maybe a broken leg here. Broken arm. Okay? Let's see Andrew Cuomo do that. Okay? I want to see that motherfucker Andrew Cuomo get up at 6 o'clock in the fucking morning, go down to the fucking bad part of town, stand on the fucking street corner, and put his own fucking body in between little kids and fucking cars and trucks. Let's see that motherfucker do that shit. Thank you.